board members' jurisdictions. Additions or changes to the agenda?
No, not at this time.
Okay, is there a motion to approve then?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved, there's a motion and a second. Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails, the agenda is adopted. Consent agenda items 5 through 8.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It prevails. Consent agenda is adopted. Open forum. We don't have anyone listed on the open forum to speak. So unless I see any objection, we'll move on to the general business item number 9. Presentation of our preliminary audit, Bergen KDB, and presentation that we will have.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Steve Wishman. I'm a partner with the firm Bergen KDB, and I would like to just spend about 10 minutes and go through the audit results for 2017. You will note that there are some preliminary stamps on the documents, and again, we're waiting for information for the PERA calculations for the pension liability as we did in past years. So that's the only thing that is holding up the finalization of the audit. That information is currently being audited for the fiscal June 30, 2017. Scheduled to be released, I believe, in January or February. Once that's in, we'll get that finalized. But that should not really change anything that we talked about today as far as financial condition, operations, and the just the audit itself and the process. So with that, I'd just like to walk through on slide 2 the components of the audit. Pages 2, 3, and 4 of the audit book, the large book, is the independent auditor's report. A couple things just to remember. Number 1, management is responsible for the daily activity, recording that, reconciling that on a monthly basis, and the annual information that we audit. It's our auditor's responsibility to provide the opinion on the financial statements. And top of page 3, we will be issuing a unmodified or clean opinion, which is the best opinion we issue, the best you can receive, and similar to those in prior years. So congratulations for that. Part of the other audit process really talks about compliance with contracts and grants and government auditing standards. That's in the back of the audited financial statements. There were no compliance issues to note this year from a legal compliance or government auditing standard standpoint. And as far as the internal control part of the process, which we look at from an audit standpoint, nothing at the highest level of material weaknesses. We have 2 repeat middle level findings, which are important enough to mention to the board, the governing body, and to management. Those significant deficiencies are the lack of segregation of accounting duties and the preparation of financial statements. So number 1, we prepare the financial statements as a convenience. We work with well over 100 governmental entities in the state, and with all the pension information, it's just you just elected for us to do that. And the second one, segregation of accounting duties. Again, it just is a balance between cost-benefit of segregating all those duties. Paula is kind of the super user of the accounting system, if you want to say. You have good checks and balances, but they're not perfect. In my 30 years of auditing, I have yet to see a perfect internal control system. So again, very, very good controls, just those middle-level findings that we've talked about in the past. No current year findings on Minnesota legal compliance. You will note last year there was one on some contractor verbiage that's been corrected, so I just wanted to note that if there is anything from prior years, you've addressed those and taken care of that. So bit of financial analysis, and I'd like to walk through for the rest of the presentation. And first of all, again, it's very similar slides to prior years. Look at inventory balance. It's just kind of one of those barometers as to the efficiency of operations, as to the materials and supplies inventory for your bus fleet. And very, very consistent from last year, 126,000 compared to 120,000. And you've really done a nice job over the last 5 years of bringing that into a more manageable number, whereas in 2013 it was about 190,000. So consistency of your fleet, just good inventory management, kind of just in time, as Ryan had mentioned as we talked here a week or so ago, doing a nice job managing the inventory balances and correspondingly the cash flow of the MTC. So, operating revenues, obviously a big component of your operations. There's 2 components, operating and non-operating or capital. We're going to look at the operating revenues on a preliminary basis here. Revenues did increase by about 10%, about $1,356,000, so to just under $15 million. Key components to the changes this year, the state grants were up about $1.8 million. Dial-A-Ride, North Star, fixed route projects that generated more state revenues. Passenger fares, kind of on the top of the bar chart there, down about 167,000 or about 9.8%. We're going to look at that in just a slide or two as well. So again, passenger fares did decline for fiscal 2017 compared to fiscal 2016. Tax levy for operations down slightly, kind of reallocated some in the capital side as well. So overall, a very busy year, and it's kind of nice just to look back over the 5-year period. You can see you're at about 10 million of operating revenues. Now you're up to close to 15 million. So lots of activity, lots of increases over that 5-year period. The next slide really looks at total revenues and expenses. So this would include your capital allocation as well. So you do see that revenues are up about 2.7 million, or about 18, almost 19% to 17.2 million. Expenses only up about $535,000 to 14,694,000. So again, continuing that trend of increased both operating revenues and expenses in the total side here. And again, if you look back at 2014, you see that very large capital grant for the CNG project. That's where you got up to the 23 million. Otherwise, very methodical increases, if you want to say, for both total revenues, operating and capital. This one's got a lot of information on it, and again, a lot of good information. So top line is the total net position, or your equity, if you want to say. And that went increased from 25.8 million up to 27.3 million dollars this year. So about a 1.5 million dollar increase. Second line from the top is looking at your net investment in capital assets, and majority, if not all, of the increase of that total was in your net investment in capital assets with the capital projects and the federal and state funding that you received for that. Third or second from the bottom is your unrestricted cash position, $9,344,326. That's up about $1.3 million from last year's $8.1 million, and the highest of the 5 years presented. And even taking a quick peek back to 2013, $4.5 million up to $9.4 million. So a very nice methodical increase in your unrestricted cash balance. And then finally, the very bottom number is the unassigned net position balance, kind of the money that's not tied up in your capital assets or not restricted or assigned for other projects or programs. $2,403,815. That is down a little bit from last year's $2,867,000, so about $464,000 decrease. When you look at the totals, though, and kind of compare where you were top to bottom, the low end was 1.8 million in 2015. The high end, about 2.8 million. In 16, that 2017 balance is pretty much right in the middle of where it's been over the last 5 years. So good, healthy reserve, not excessive by any means, and again very consistent with where you would expect. As I mentioned, there are components of your net position or accumulated earnings that are assigned for various programs. The largest one here is the assignment for fixed assets or capital assets, $1,546,000. That was about a $470,000 increase from last year. You can kind of just see down the line here, the other ones remain fairly consistent in smaller amounts. Some of them, were the future bus and long range plan, were eliminated this year. There was a change or an increase, if you want to say, on the CNG capital repairs of $55,000 as well. So these are kind of your special buckets of money, if you want to say, with the assignments for all those various categories. And again, the fixed assets, as well as self-insurance and the fixed route expansion, are kind of your top three. Kind of talked about this already in that total revenue and expenditure or expense graph, but here's the capital expenditures for the last 5 years. $3.4 million in fiscal 2017 for the buses and Dial-A-Ride and the garage expansion. And again, higher than you've seen on average over the last 5 years, with the exception of the CNG grant, which was about $18.6 million in 2014. So it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that was up and running, but time sure does fly. So. A couple final things just to give you an idea on operating revenues by source. So for every dollar that you receive, how much of it comes from state grants versus tax levy versus passenger fares. A couple things to note here: the state grants at 69.4, that's up about 6.5%, so a little bit more earned in state. Passenger fares is running at 10.6%, and that's down 2.3%. Your tax levy for fixed assets was up about 0.7% to 4.9%. And then your operations, as I mentioned, as a percent, it was down, and as a percentage went from about 14.5 down to 12.1%. So overall, when you compare the total tax levy as a percentage, the operations down 2.4, the fixed assets up 0.7, so about a negative 1.7% decline overall, which I think is noteworthy as well. Finally, just a quick snapshot of operating expenses. Again, so for every dollar that you spend, how much is direct fixed route and dial-a-ride transit? That is 64.5%, up 2.4%. Vehicle maintenance, 15.8, that's down 1.6% from last year. Facility maintenance at 4.7%, that's up 0.3, and then your administration is 15%, and that's down 1.1% from last year. So again, you look at that and say a vast majority of every dollar that's being spent is going in transit services, maintenance, whether it's facility or vehicle, and only about 15% is for administrative purposes. So I think, again, very nice percentage, and again, you can see that's about a 1.1% increase from the prior years. So, with that, just like to make a couple quick comments about the audit process. Paula and team is very well prepared for us when we come in, and great collaborative experience as always. We appreciate all of her help, and September year end, we're here wrapping it up in early December. Lots of moving numbers, if you want to say, but again, the calculations and the confirmations with the state and the federal from the grant perspective worked out very well, and we appreciate all the courtesy that was given to us by Paula and Ryan and staff. And with that, I would just be happy to answer any questions. As you can see in the financial analysis, very positive from an operational standpoint. You see the reserves going up, both fund balances, cash balances, active year. And again, once we get the final PERA information, we'll update that information and finalize those books like we have in the past. So.
Thank you. Commissioners have any questions or comments?
No.
Very good. Just visual presentation to us. Appreciate it. Well, with that, thank you, and we'll move on then to item number 10, Resolution 2017-17, setting the final levy of all taxable property in the transit area.
Make a motion to approve.
This is a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. You
I don't have to say anything.
You don't have to-
Just go or-
We've talked about it in the past, so we know we've actually discussed it quite a bit. So it's not that we're just making a motion. We'd love to hear you.
I talked to him earlier today.
Yeah, we'd love to have a presentation, but if it's okay with Sauk Rapids, it's okay.
It's good.
We gotta let them get away with something.
That's right. So seeing no other further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries and adopted. Department updates. Maintenance. Yeah.
Commissioners, just a quick update on our new buses that we're currently getting delivery on. We have the 3 MCIs, of course, that are here now. We've got one wrap that's ready for service. The wraps are going slower than I hoped for. Mustang Graphics has the contract for the wraps, but they're like so many other people right now, especially towards year end, they're running behind and hard to keep them on. They've only had one person installing the wrap here, and that took them about a week and a half to get this first wrap done. Now the next crew is coming in on tomorrow night. They're going to send 2 people here on overtime to try to keep the wraps going. So I'll just keep on that's the best I can do. Friday night they're going to have 3 people here, so it's just kind of really, and they didn't plan on having anybody here the rest of the week, so we're just kind of trying to push that along. So, but we do have one ready for service currently right now out of the 3. Champions, we've got two new Dial-A-Rite champions that are in service now. Those two that came in, we've got them in service already. Got the CNGs that are coming in we've got 4 delivered. 5th one, they had some problems at the plant that got damaged when they were moving it with a tow truck. They're currently putting a new front cap on that one. But it's hard to say when they'll have that done, probably another week or so. That one should be ready for delivery. We just finished getting the last quote for the graphics on those 3 buses. We hope to get those in service. Hopefully after the first of the year, we should be able to get those CNGs in service in the first couple of weeks there of January. So that's about all I have to tell you on the fleet right now. So.
Good. Questions for Brad?
The new buses are really nice. If you haven't had a chance to see them, sneak out there. Pretty nice.
Yeah, they did a nice, the wrap that they put on, they really did a nice job on it. I have to give them that at least. It was very time consuming, but he really was very meticulous on the install. So did a better job than they did on our earlier fleet there. So it's a very, very good looking job. So anybody wants to see it, it's out in the service later. So we'll just do our best to keep pushing them along. Just we've got our part of it as far as in servicing them. We're done. They're just ready for the wraps. That's the only thing that's holding those buses up from going on. The other 2 of them. So we do our normal in-service in the shop there, of course, putting them up on a waste, checking them over, etc. And that's all complete. So we're just waiting to get the wraps done to get them on the service now. So.
No, let us know when that wraps up. Sorry. Just wait, Bill. Well, appreciate that, Dad. Any other?
Well, yeah, the commissioners, Chair and fellow commissioners, today we had our first annual 2017 employee recognition event. It's not on the agenda, but the theme this year was Every Piece Matters. And we recognize employees who have various years of service from 5 years until 40 years. But with that, I would like to take a moment to thank the administrative folks that are here in the house today, the Metrobus staff, especially Paula and her financial department, as well as our administrative department, for keeping Metrobus fiscally sound. In the last 3 years, Paula and I have worked together, Metrobus, and Paula always tells me, if I don't know anything about finance, remember one thing: as long as revenue exceeds expenditures, you're in a good place. And for the last 3 years, Metrobus was able to have revenues exceed expenditures. And Paula, thank you for your no to everything, but keeping Metrobus on track, keeping us on the bus, keeping us on a good thing, on a good roll. But I'm just happy that Metrobus is able to do the things that we aren't able to do, such as getting these buses and recognizing our employees the way that we recognize our employees today. Just everything matters. We look at putting all the things together with Metrobus. Every piece does matters, from the bus detailers to the operators to our staff, even to the commissioners. For you guys to support too as well, because you guys set the policy, give us direction on how we can keep Metrobus moving, how we can take Metrobus to the next level. So every piece matters, from the detailers to the commissioners. So I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody here in the room for your support and loyalty to Metrobus. Thank you for keeping us with a nice fund balance. And thank you guys for your support, and thank you guys for your dedication to Metrobus.
That's a good philosophy too, the expenditures and revenues. For the levies, keep all that fine, I know. We've talked about that here, but on behalf of the board too, thanks for, it's an opportunity at the end of the year. People get a chance to reflect, and it's been good. You've had some really good, you had a audit. That's even the more important piece. I hear really positive things. I can tell you from the constituents that I represent on your staff and the folks that are really providing the services to our community, which is great. So, on behalf of myself, the board, hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, and we're looking forward to a prosperous 2018. So another award. It's about time for an award, national award. Do we expect to win? So.
To be continued.
That's good.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Any other?
I just want to, if I could, Mr. Chair. It's really nice to be recognized by MnDOT too, to get some of these additional grants that we received over the past couple of years. That's really nice. I mean, we have a nice fleet out there. Awesome. Now we just need to get ridership up. We're good.
Work in progress.
Oh yeah.
Rick's battery is low, so we're
Yep.
gonna. So is there a motion to adjourn?
move.
It's moved and seconded.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 20 after